another video, and hopefully you like my intro, my new intro. That's how we'll be starting things off from now on. We're trying to improve things and get better and offer more things to you guys. So let's just get started with this. We're looking at a few charts here, and I'm going to be talking about a few things today. I'm going to be talking about some support and resistance, fractals, and some reversal patterns that I like to use to get into the market. All right, so starting right off, we're going to first talk about this Kijinsen here, this blue line here. I've told you guys before that the Kijinsen acts like a trend line, and you can see how it's holding true to the nature here as it comes down, price comes down, and it doesn't break that level and continues to follow price. This Kijinsen is following this price, and you see it holds support here, holds support here. Now usually when you get a break of the trend of the Kijinsen, that means your trend is possible. There's a possible trend change direction. All right, so that's not the norm. That doesn't mean it's going to be always, but that's what the norm is. Okay, so we're not going to say that's something that happens all the time. It's something that we look for. It's a indication that maybe this is going to happen. Okay, so price comes down here, and this is where we're going to get into a reversal pattern right here that I wanted to teach you guys and show you. One thing that I really like to do is get in on a pattern that's called a three inside up or a three inside down, depending on if it's a bullish or bearish that I'm getting into the trade. In this case, this would be a bullish because I'm looking to get into a long trade, so it would be a three inside up. So there's a few things you need. First, you need the signal. So the signal came down, and it was first this inverted hammer off of a support level. You can see this inverted hammer with the long wick here, and the support level is the main thing. The support level at the Kijinsen. All right, now remember, support is not a line. Support is not a line. It's an area. So within that area, we came close, and then we had this hammer develop, this inverted hammer, and then the next thing we had was a bullish candle, and that bullish candle made the two candles together form what we know as a dark cloud cover, which is this candle here, the bullish candle. Let's get a little closer. Okay, so the bullish candle here closed within the previous candle, closed within the previous bearish candles open and close, and it closed below the mid-range of the body. Okay, and it closed within the close of the previous candle, so it's within the mid-range and above the close. So that formed what we know as a dark cloud cover, and then the next candle closed above this level here, which now made this a three inside up pattern. And I would get into the trade here and put my stop loss below that fractal level, but since the fractal was so close to the Kijinsen, I keep it below the Kijinsen, and you can see that trade would have worked out. And that's what we look for. We look for that pattern throughout. Okay, and again, that pattern developed right here. You can see that pattern developing right here. You had a bearish candle coming down, then you had another candle. This is really an indecision candle here, but it closed below the midpoint of the previous candle's body, but it stayed above the close of that candle. And then my next candle closed above this candle here, so that was a three inside up, and again, that trade would have worked out. My stop loss would have been below the fractal level here, right below that fractal level. I'm a little far from the Kijinsen, so I would have kept my stop loss there. Now this is past stuff that we're looking at, but I have to show you some things in the past to teach you some things we can show at the time that it's happening. Okay, and now looking where the market is now, basically you could see we're still above that trend line, that Kijinsen. All right, but we found some support here. Now the market shows you a lot of things just based off of the fractal levels. The fractal levels will tell you what the market's doing basically, because when the market's in a nice uptrend, usually you won't have a close below a fractal level. Okay, so here's a small fractal level here that got closed below, but that wasn't a main fractal level. You can see where you get a good pullback. So you get this pullback here, and then you develop a fractal level, and then the market moves. If the market would have closed below this fractal level, then we would know that we're not really in a trend. We're not holding true to the nature of the trend, so we would have fell back down maybe and found support somewhere else. or we would have started ranging or whatever. But since the market was in a trend, you can see that now the market moved upwards, made a fractal level, moved up. Now we have a few fractals here. These fractals are telling me that now there's so many fractals in this area that this is a range here. So we're starting to range, and also that range is a support level. And you can see where it is support. You have support here. And why is that a support level? Because basically the market came down and it honored that level right here and went back up, and then we violated that level, and now we honored it. So we honored it, violate it, and then honor. And then later on the market comes back, honors it, and it honors it again. And now we're currently honoring that level some more. So that level, that's how we found that level to be support for us. Now this is the daily time frame here, so we want to go down to the 4 hour time frame and see what that looks like. Now the 4 hour time frame looks a little more bearish because first of all we're below the cloud. But then I see some medium term momentum that is telling me that we're still bullish because the medium term is the Kijinsen here. And if price is above that Kijinsen, then I know that we're still a little bullish, okay? But overall we're bearish. Now see the thing that I told you about the fractals will tell you a lot of things. So we have some fractals here. You can see these fractals here, and they're telling you a lot of things. We're in a short downtrend right now basically, but if we break this fractal level or break through the cloud here, being that we have some momentum that is still some momentum that's still bearish, not bearish, sorry, bullish, then we can still look to see what price is going to do if we can get a close above this cloud, because on the daily time frame we're still bullish, right? So the daily time frame still bullish. So if we want to go long, we're still bullish on the daily, and down here on the 4 hour we're a little bearish still because we're below the cloud. So if we get a close above that cloud, we'll have a Kumo breakout. Now what I'm looking at is here support again based off of the Kijinsen. Also that's showing me the momentum for the past 26 periods, and you have this candle come down here. Look at how we're bouncing off of that level. You have a nice doji here, and then this previous next candle here, which is currently a bullish candle, we want to see that eventually get above this cloud and close above the cloud. Okay, but our future is now still bearish. So the momentum looks like it may be changing. We'll get a real note. We'll really know the change of the momentum once we close below that Kijinsen. So just look at that and keep that in mind. See, the fractals tell you a lot of things about the market. All right, follow those fractals and you'll know where the market is going. You won't know, but you'll have some direction of what the market is doing. Okay, so I need to break that line there to get into a nice trade. So even though I break the Kumo, I'd like to break this level also. All right, but the daily is telling me, like I said, the daily is telling me bullish, but all trends start on the lower time frame. All right, so let's go to the pound yen. Pound yen looks pretty much the same, and you see I have a support level here. This is the daily time frame, and this support level is what we're looking at, where price came down. We're bounced off of that support level. We're bouncing off of the Kijinsen. The Kijinsen's holding level, and you can see the trend line here. All right, so we're pretty bullish here on the daily time frame, but we had this long bearish candle here. So really I'm not looking for anything unless I see a some kind of pattern that shows me that this level of support is holding. I go down to the 4 hour time frame and see what that looks like, and that looks bearish again. So again, I want to get above the cloud again to make sure that I'm in a good long trade. Now the short-term momentum, and we're dying out here, but the short-term momentum is bearish because we're below the period of 26 periods for the Kijinsen, right? So being below that tells me the medium term momentum, not the short term, sorry about that. The medium term momentum is bearish. We're below that level. And then you can see how the flat tops of the flat bottoms and the flat tops of the Kumo here, which I told you were the sink out span B, which is forming these flat tops and flat bottoms. Okay, so when you see these flattening out like this, then you also know that the momentum is dying out because That's based off of 52 periods highs and lows. And when you see that you're not making anything higher or lower for the past 52 periods, you flatten out here. That tells you the momentum's dying out. So really, you're in kind of a range. It could be a big range, but you're basically ranging. Okay, you know, you need to break a level for the past 52 periods to say you're starting to trend anywhere. All right, so we'll see what the market does here. Basically, I'm not trading this unless I see something get above this cloud here. And if we break this level here, I'm still not looking at that, because if you look at the whole structure of this market here with the trend line and the trend that we're in, I'm not going to really mess with this. All right. So now here we go with the Aussie cat on the daily time frame, and again we're bearish on this pair. As you could see, once again, the fractals will tell you a lot of things. Look at those fractals. You can draw your trend lines on the fractals. You can draw your support and resistance on those fractals. So you see those fractals again. So now it looks like the market is in a little downtrend, and that even tells me more because we're below the Kijun-sen and we're below the cloud. So we are definitely bearish here. So we look for some kind of a bounce off of this resistance level here. If we can get a bounce off of the for this resistance level here, you can see this doji here. We pierced up here and then came all the way back down, and prices never closed higher than this level and never closed higher than the Kijun-sen. So we want to see if we close below these three candle levels here, and if we do, we would definitely take a trade and put a stop loss up here. Now if we break this level, then we'll wait for the market to show us what it's going to do. Will it hold support, or rather resistance at the cloud, or will it break the cloud? That's when we'll go the opposite direction, a break of the cloud upwards. But right now we're bearish, and we're going to look for something below this level here. This is the level we want to see a close below, and then we can put our stop loss a little above this fractal level here, because we'll be above the Kijun-sen and that fractal level, which I told you is very important. So we want to get a close below that level, and we'll see what happens then. All right, that's the Aussie CAD. Euro pound. Look how the Kijun-sen acts just as a trend line. You can see that it's just following the market. And here we go. Price was all over the place here, went up and then broke down. And when it broke down and came below the Kijun-sen, you never had a change. Never had price go against the Kijun-sen and close on the opposite side. We stayed below that Kijun-sen, and you can see the fractals here. We're not breaking any fractal levels higher, right? Those fractal levels are never being broken higher. So let me show you. Got a fractal level here, fractal level here, all these fractal levels here, fractal level here, and the market never broke higher than that. So it continues to move downwards, stays below the trend line, our basic Kijun-sen here. That tells me the momentum is still bearish on the medium term. So this is a bearish market. Look for a way to get into this market, and we're bouncing off of a little resistance level off of the fractal level here. But I'm too far from my Kijun-sen for me to get into a trade. You know, I like to have my stop loss closer to the Kijun-sen or the fractal level that's bullish, this bullish fractal here. So I wouldn't mess with this now. I need a good pullback to enter the market there. That's why I like to keep my probabilities higher. Now, yeah, a trade may work off of a bounce off of this level and go lower. You know, I could get into a trade off of a bounce here, put a stop loss a little above that level. But I want to try to leave no room for the market to really do anything but go the opposite way. And we're going to just wait on this. I don't want to mess with anything there. So that's what I'm looking at there with the euro pound. But like I said, again, you can take this level here and hold that as support, and I mean as resistance, and trade off of that level. But like I said, we're a little bit far from the Kijun-sen. Let's see how far we are. Well, actually 69 pips on the daily time frame. Actually, that's not too bad. So we're not that far from the Kijun-sen really. All right, so let's look at the pound dollar. The pound dollar, same thing here. You can see the trend line that I've drawn. You can see the fractal levels. You can see fractals higher. All right. and now we're at this level. Now here's where I'm going to talk about the support and resistance thing, because I try to tell you guys support and resistance is not a line, okay? Support and resistance is not a line. Here's my support level right here, our resistance level or whatever. So if the market was moving upwards and I said this was going to be my fractal level upwards, okay, so the level that we're looking at here, where we have a fractal level, and then we have the closes hitting on this level here. We have a close and then an open hitting on that level. Then we have some wicks on that level. So this is a level where we started to put our support, our resistance level rather. But you could see where the wicks came up into that level. So that's why I say this whole area um, is the support and resistance level. That's why I put a line here and a line here. So now you have a zone. And then with that zone, look what happened after a while. So if I put these levels here, then price breaks through. Now price came back to the zone. It didn't go all the way through the zone and come to this level, but it hit the top of the zone. All right, so that's why I look at support and resistance as an area. It's not a line. If I would have just put this line here, you could hold true for the resistance here, but when price came back to honor this, it didn't come down to that level. It came down to this top part of the zone. Okay, so that's what you look at. You look at a zone. You don't look at a line for support and resistance. Okay, but looking at this pound dollar on the daily time frame, we're in a slight range. And see, your fractals could tell you things also. The fractals will tell you the bias of the market, because if you're making higher fractals, you know you're bearish. You're making if you're making higher fractals, you know you're bullish. And I always say bearish and bullish, mixing them up all the time. You hear me do it on every video. But anyway, I guess I'm so used to saying bullish or whatever. But anyway, coming back, when you see the market coming, making lower fractals, so you make a lower fractal and another lower fractal, then you know that that you're in a bearish market, or your sentiment is bearish. So the fractals tell you a lot along with the Ichimoku system. So even without the Ichimoku system, the fractals are going to tell you a whole bunch of things. Okay, so this pound dollar right now is in a slight range, consolidating, and I'm not going to look for anything. We bounced off of this level, but really, you want to see the price come up to the top of this range again. So what I would look at here, and we're in an uptrend. So I'm not looking to get into the market on the break of that level. You could do that. There's a couple things I could do here. And like I told you, support and resistance is a zone. So we put this level here because that's where we had wicks pulling all the way up to that level. If price wasn't in that level, then we wouldn't make it a zone. Okay, so now the market's in a slight range here. So we got a fractal level down here, but now we're within this area here. So we want to see price come back to this level before we could get into the market again. So maybe we pull back, or pull way back down into Kijun Sen, and somewhere in this area we want to get into the trade. We don't want to get into the trade up here, okay, because a lot of times what's going to happen, you'll get that fake out and then the market comes back, stays in the range. So we want to get in the best probabilities that we could. We want to put ourselves in the best situation. So that would be bouncing off of support and buying the market off of the support level. So if we get up here, we'll look for the market to come back down. Now, if the market breaks this level, then we need to wait for the market to come back to that level as support and then get into the market again. So in an uptrend, we just want to keep getting in on the support levels, okay? Getting in on those fractal levels that are showing us the support levels. All right, so we want to wait to get in on the support level, and we didn't get in here, so we'll wait and see if we have another opportunity, or if we can break that level and get down to the Kijun, and that would be really great. All right, but overall you could see the market's in an uptrend, so we're looking to go long on this. So we'll go to the Aussie yen. Aussie yen is really, we're in a range here. We're not doing much. The market's not doing much. We bounced off of this support level here from the cloud, but we're below the medium term momentum. The medium term sentiment of the market is bearish because we've been below this Kijun for the past 26 periods. The mid range of the Kijun, we're below that level. So we're bearish. If we get a close below this cloud, then we'll take this market short. All right, but until now, we're not going to look for anything long until we see some kind of a range on the market telling us something. I mean, some kind of a trend on the market, or the market telling us something. we can get a break of the cloud here and take it short. You can see how the volatility of the market is with this thicker cloud. But if we get a break of the cloud here and take that short, we have this cloud level as our support and resistance level. So we can still take a short trade here because our momentum and our bias is going to be bearish at that time. We're bearish momentum and bias being below the Kijun-sen. Get below the cloud, our bearish will have a bearish momentum with that. All right, but see, we're still above the cloud with price, and we have a bright future, which is bullish. So we don't want to be taking anything short yet. And as long as price, as long as we have this future looking bearish, I mean bullish, sorry, we're not going to take the short trade even if we get the break below that level. And even if the trade works out, we just want to make sure the probabilities are in our favor. And this is a range here, so once it breaks out of that range, we'll see which way it goes. So that's Aussie yen. We'll keep our eye on that for the next couple weeks, couple days. It's going to take longer than a week or so to break out of there probably. Aussie dollar looking the same thing here. You know, your medium term momentum and bias is bearish, but we're overall bullish because we're above the cloud. But you see, we're bouncing off of that level of the cloud here, but we're still in a slight range here. And I want to get above this level here to really start knowing that the market's moving or doing anything. Or I want to get to the top of the range and wait for the market to come down and maybe buy it at the bottom of the cloud and take that up a little bit. But being in this range, I'm just going to wait on this market. I'm not going to mess with it. Okay, so again, that's a few days away to see what we have here. Aussie New Zealand dollar. This is really good here. This is the market's in a downtrend, but we have a bullish channel here that you could see, this bullish price channel where price has bounced off of this channel, bounced off of the channel. So every time it bounces off of that channel and goes back up, hits the top of the channel, it came back down to this level. Now we're starting to see some divergence with price and the Kijun-sen. The Kijun-sen's pointing downwards as price has moved upwards hard. Now, if price is moving upwards, the Kijun-sen should be starting to move upwards. The Kijun-sen should at least be flat till price gets to that level and then move up with price. But it's pointing downwards as price is moving upwards. We may have some divergence here. Price may continue to go and break through this cloud, and then we'll see what happens there. Now, if that doesn't hold true, we'll see price hold as, we'll see the Kijun-sen hold as a resistance level. Then we'll look for some formation to get into the market and take it short down maybe to this level and then see where we go from there. All right, so that's the Aussie New Zealand dollar on a daily time frame. Looking at the New Zealand dollar, US dollar on a daily time frame, and this is still, you can see this is in an uptrend. You see the market moving upwards. So if you want to really see what the market's doing, you can't stay in this close. You have to move out. Being in this close, you really don't know what the market's doing. See what the overall market is doing. The overall market is moving upwards. All right, so you could see we're above the cloud. We're above the Kijun-sen, which is our medium-term momentum and bias. So we're above that level. We're bouncing on that level. It looks like we're right now maybe have a little doji here developing, and we'll see what happens then. We want to see if this level is going to hold, if this Kijun-sen holds. And if it does, then you have what we always say, the Kijun-sen bounce, because this Kijun-sen, like I said before, acts as your trend line. We're above that level. Now, it only can act as a trend line if we're trending. And you can see here we haven't been trending, but the trend has started this way. So from here we were kind of flat, and you can see it was pretty flat there. Then it moved downwards as the market moved downwards. On the previous one here, you could see it's moving downwards as the market's moving upwards. Shouldn't be doing that. That's kind of divergence with that. So here it's moving across while the market is flat. Then it moves downwards as the market moves downwards. So now the market started to move upwards, and the Kijun-sen moved upwards with the market. Now price has come down. It's bounced on this level. We want to see if this level holds true as support, and if it does, then we look for a long trade here. All right, so this is the most immediate trading opportunity developing. We want to wait and see what happens and see what it closes out as, and see if we can get something bullish looking here. But right now, as the market continues to make bearish candles, we won't get into a trade until we see a bullish, some kind of a bullish setup for us. All right, so that's looking at the New Zealand dollar, US dollar. So we'll wait on that. That's going to be a few days again too. This is nothing developing right yet. And finally, let's look at the pound yen. The pound yen looks just like the other charts, okay? So here you were in that nasty looking range here, and then finally price broke out, and the fractals are telling you about the breakout here as price continues to move up. You're making higher lows. You're making higher lows with your fractals, and you're making higher highs with your fractals, okay? And that's just basically the same thing as that's when you're trending upwards. That's what you're looking at is making higher highs and higher lows with your fractals. But then you could see here we held support here. And once we held support here, we can look to get into the market. Now we want to make sure that we're holding support here because immediately the bulls are in control of this market right now, basically because the medium term momentum is telling me so because we're above that level, we're above the level here, but we're not very far from that level, so we're right on that level. So pretty much the market is neutral right here. We want to see what happens, see something break through here. Now yes, with the cloud we are bullish. We were above the cloud, prices above the cloud, so long term we are bullish. Medium term we're still bullish, but we're close, we're right on the edge there. And you can see the trend line here. Once we got this trend line here, short trend line here, that level's holding true, this level's holding true, but we have this strong big bullish bearish candle come down here. And once this bearish candle came down, we need to wait and see if this level is going to hold, because now we may break this level. We start breaking this fractal level here, then we know that we starting to get a change of trend direction. And then we really break this level here, we can move lower, because you're looking at these fractal levels. And here's a fractal level set up right with the Kijinsen fractal level here. And that fractal level, you could see I just threw this level in here based off of the fractal here, but you can look back in time and see where it lines right up. And I didn't even take time to line that up, but it lines right up perfectly with the past resistance levels. And then this one here does the exact same thing, lines right up perfectly with this past resistance level. And I just threw this in based off of looking at the fractal level there. So if you take time to really look at it and put them where they really are, this is really tight marking for support and resistance. This is pretty good levels here. So you have this support level here based off of the fractal and the Kijinsen. So we want to see if it holds. If it holds, then we can look for some kind of setup to get us into the market long. All right, but that's what we're looking at now, traders, and that's what I'll be looking at for the next few days, and I'll keep you updated on that. Once again, continue to check out my site fxatOneglance.com, and I'll have a lot of updates there, a lot of blogs, a lot of things in my blog there, and some educational things that you guys could sign up for or register for. So traders, until next time, hopefully this is helping someone and blessing someone. Have a great week and God bless. So long.